Hi, this is Boyd coming to you from Game Castle College Park. We've been working on a whole video series for folks who want to transition from 5th edition D&D to Pathfinder 2nd edition. We'll also be talking about all types of gaming content on the channel here, so if you got something you want us to cover, let us know. You can also like, subscribe, and comment on this video to tell us what you think and influence future videos. Today we're going to talk about the secret roll. We're going to talk about pros and cons. We're going to talk about how Pathfinder 2e handles secret rolls. And finally, we're going to show you how you can create a Roll20 macro to set up secret rolls in your online game so that the GM sees the result of the character's roll, but the character doesn't. What is a secret roll? A secret roll is a check that uses a character's statistics where the character gets information resulting from that check, but doesn't see the result of the die roll. Secret rolls are a way to manage metagaming. If the player doesn't know what the number is that showed up on the die, they have to rely on the information they receive from the check without reference to whether it beat the DC. Properly combined with sharing secret information, secret rolls can really add to your game. The real value here is not just passing information along that's useful to the character that succeeds. It's also passing misinformation to the character that failed. But a lot of the fun of RPGs is rolling dice, and unless Abed Nadir from Community is GMing your game, your players probably want to do that. So some tables will let a player roll the secret roll and even see the results of the die, but without reference to whether or not the result was a success. That'll help with fail, succeed, and critically succeed questions, but is not going to cover critical fails. Some GMs will enforce the secret roll, but they'll tell the player the DC, or at least a range of DCs they may be looking at. That's going to mirror the fact that in real life, someone may not know whether or not they're going to be right about something, but they have a pretty good idea of estimating the difficulty and the chance that they may be wrong. The party has awakened in the Enchanted Forest, a location that just sort of comes upon you. Maybe it's Wayworth Forest from Kryn, maybe it's the Enchanted Forest from dealing with dragons, maybe it's something else. Enchanted forests are stock settings in fantasy and fairy tales for a reason. After traveling a short time that morning, they come upon a cheery cottage with smoke twirling out of its chimney. Stepping onto the porch and preparing to knock, the GM informs them that there is a table next to the door. On the table are 3 pairs of gloves and a strange basket. The gloves appear to be sized for humans, smaller humanoids, maybe children, and some sort of creature like an adult human, but with much longer fingers. The basket is filled with oranges and has a metal hoop with serrated teeth on the inside. Chris, who plays Eliphas, asks, "What's up with this weird stuff next to the door? Time for a secret roll to see what Eliphas knows." The GM says to Chris, "As a well-traveled person, Eliphas the Race Slayer is familiar with the hospitality customs of most cultures. But the Enchanted Forest is a location that you don't just wander into, Seventh Sons of Seventh Sons aside. So it's tough to get reliable information about it. Sure, the magically inclined and those marked by destiny all seem to have had at least one trip to the forest and the legends about them, but most people will never see it. Eliphas has never been here before, and separating other travelers' truthful accounts from made-up tales around the campfire or copied into some book in a library is a fool's errand. And let's be honest, Eliphas is not the most studious. He's far more likely to have learned anything he might know about the Enchanted Forest from around a campfire." Switching back into the GM's internal monologue, they're going to want to set a DC for making a recall knowledge check to know what the purpose of the gloves, the basket, and the serrated hoops is, based on a few things. In my headcanon, which is the only one that matters right now, the Enchanted Forest is about a level 5 location, with specialized areas inside it that go to higher levels. Customs about the forest in general are probably a level 5 task then. That's going to have a DC of 20. But it's tough to get to the Enchanted Forest, and Eliphas has never been here. It seems like most heroes of legend have been here before at least once, so I might adjust the DC up to 22 to cover the location's rarity, and tell Chris, the DC for your Recallage knowledge check using Society is going to be in the low to mid-20s. It'll be a little easier if Eliphas has a relevant lore skill, like hospitality lore, or a lot easier if you have a wildly specific lore skill like Enchanted Forest lore. Unfortunately for Chris, Elephas doesn't have a relevant lore skill. Chris looks at his character's society skill. It's a plus 10. How convenient for this video. He decides that the DC is probably going to be somewhere around a 21 to a 23. Chris isn't going to math out his chance of success quite as accurately as we're about to, but he'll be able to do some quick estimates. He's got a pretty low chance of critically failing and getting bad information. Most likely he's going to fail and learn nothing, but there's a decent chance he'll succeed and get good information, with a 5% chance that he'll critically succeed and get especially useful information if he rolls a natural 20. He decides to risk it. The most likely result is no information, and what's the harm in that? And the chances of bad information are low. Chris goes ahead and agrees to the secret check for Elephas. The GM rolls the dice and tells him, Elephas believes that door gloves are a common tradition in the Enchanted Forest. Putting them on indicates that a visitor means no harm to the host. Because the Enchanted Forest is home to many witches, fae, and other magical creatures, the gloves are often ensorcelled to ensure just that. The acidic fruits and blood are mixed, but only by close associates of the host. Using the blade to cut both the hand and the fruit, the pain of the acidic fruit coming into your hand indicates awareness of the drain on the host's time and resources by having you in their home. The circular nature of the blade is a sign that, as a friend, the friend also invites the host to visit their home in return. Chris has no idea if this information is correct or not. He has a good idea about how likely it is that his character was right, but it's entirely possible this information is not good. What he decides to do with it is up to him. Now, some tables, especially in organized play, are just going to dispense with secret rolls, and that's fine. The big worry is going to be folks that get a little too excited about secret rolls. Improperly played, a secret roll can be an excuse for GMs to mess with player agency, and you need to avoid that at all costs. For the most part, these are checks about knowledge, information, or suppositions. They're not going to cause a player to do anything. And unless a player has very clearly expressed that they are taking an action, they just don't do it. And if it's an action that could land their character in hot water, the sneak action does come to mind here. Verify that the action could have consequences before the player elects to make the roll. Obviously, I'm not talking about the results of a will save for a suggestion spell here. There's a place for that, but it's a whole other kettle of fish, and we'll fry it on a different day. We're going to see the secret trait come up on a lot of actions in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, especially skill checks. It's going to happen on times when a character performs an action, or occasionally a will save. They're going to know the result of their action, but not whether that result is correct or incorrect based on the die roll. I cannot think of a time you would need a secret roll for a fortitude save or a reflex save. You will know whether your character successfully dodged a fireball or resisted having their life drained out of them by a vampiric touch spell. Same for something like an acrobatics check. Did you jump over the pit or not? No need for a secret roll. Hand that d20 to the player. But what about times when a player says, this remarkably conveniently placed quest-giving NPC sure wants to give us the farm without asking for much in return? I'd like to get an idea about whether or not they're telling the truth or maybe have some sort of secret motive. Sounds like it's time for a secret roll. Character is going to have a secret perception check. Learning the result of their action, does your character get an idea of whether the NPC is being truthful or has a secret agenda, but the player is not going to learn whether that information is true or false. Without seeing how the die roll comes out, the player has to rely solely on the information they receive from the game master. Secret rolls are going to be especially useful in cases where a critical success is going to result in especially useful information, or a critical failure is going to result in an opportunity for the GM to pass along incorrect information. Recall knowledge checks are good here, identifying magic items, especially something like a cursed or intelligent magic item. You get the idea. If it might be a plot point to deliver information that's not 100% correct, a secret check is the great time to do it. The actions that call for secret rolls, it is actually a pretty short list of them. Unfortunately, they are actions that come up quite a lot. First are multi-skill actions. These are ones that are going to be using different skills depending on the circumstances of the check. That's going to be things like decipher writing, identifying magic, or recalling knowledge. Crafting checks like identifying alchemy are going to be secret. Deception actions like impersonating or lying. Diplomacy is going to come up a lot. Gather information. Note that make an impression and requesting something of an NPC are not secret roles. And that makes a lot of sense with a request. You know whether or not the NPC accedes to it. Make an impression is kind of an edge case for me, because a lot of times NPCs might pretend to be helpful, but actually have harmful intentions. Rules as written, you deal with this by using perception to sense the NPC's motive after you made the impression. Rules as intended, I think there's a pretty good case for efficiency and just having make an impression roles be secret. Like everything in role-playing games, it's really up to your table's preferences at the end of the day. Society checks, creating a forgery, as well as society checks to recall knowledge, of course. We're going to see this happen a lot in stealth, with concealing an object, hiding yourself, or sneaking. Survival, sense direction. Perception, times when you're going to seek or sense motive. Okay, so now you've decided you like the idea of using secret roles in your game. And if you're playing in person, that's fine. Grab a dice tower that puts results out behind the GM screen. But what if you're doing it online? How do you make sure that your players still get the opportunity to roll? Well, there is a way to modify Roll20 such that you can do it in online play. I'm sure something like this exists in other virtual tabletops, but I am not a programmer, so I'm only going to be able to help you in this one. So I know that what I'm about to show you works, but if you have technical questions, I may not be the best person to answer them. I'll try if you put something in the comments. The technique that I'm going to show you was developed by a programmer named Aaron C. Meadows, who goes by the name The Scriptomancer. If you like it and think you will add it to your game, you can thank him by visiting his member page on Roll20, linked below. It also has links to his Patreon, which you should consider supporting. Let's jump into this. So the first thing we're going to want to do is set up a new campaign in Roll20. Technically, you can add this feature to an existing game, but I recommend trying it with a new campaign first. Messing around with macros and scripting can cause the game to have problems, and you'll probably be happier doing this twice than you will be if you do it once and cause your entire campaign to get deleted or soft locked or otherwise become inaccessible. So I'm going to call my particular game Test B-Roll, but you can call it whatever you want. I'm setting my character sheet to PF2E. It's not necessary, but I did it anyway. And now create your game. We've got that done. We'll flip over to our campaign page, and it will be time to click on the settings menu and modify some API scripts. If you don't see an option to modify API scripts, you may not have your Roll20 membership level such that you have scripting ability. This video is still going to be delightfully educational, but not super implementable for you. So the first thing we're going to do now is rely on some other people's pre-existing work. With the Mod Library tab open, search for a suite of options in the library called Split Args. Split Args is a set of tools that's designed to let you split up the functions of what happens when someone uses a pre-existing command in Roll20. For example, when you use the /r or /roll command, you're actually doing several things. You're telling the system to roll some dice / generate a random number. You're telling the system to add or subtract some value from that random number. And finally, you're telling the system to display the results of that calculation to everyone logged into the game. We're going to add split args to our script so that we can break that up. Go ahead and add it to your library. Now that we've added split args, we can see it in our sandbox. Now it's time to do some quote-unquote coding all of our own. So the first thing to do is flip over to the New Script tab. Give it a title. Use secretroll.js. Then copy the text you see on the screen here into the editor. Web browsers don't show a whole lot of the code, so a little bit of it's going to be cut off, but you can find a copy of the code to use in the show notes for this show on YouTube. Now you're just going to need to scroll down and click the Saved Script button. Last step, just click Restart the API Sandbox. I don't know if this is actually technically required or not, but I get better results with it. From time to time, I've also seen my script expire and not be workable in my game. And if you go back to modify scripts and restart the sandbox, all of a sudden everything is good to go again. It's time to switch over to your campaign. Go ahead and launch it. We've got a few things going on here. The first thing that you got to learn is that you're going to make secret roles in chat the same way you would any other roles. Only the command is going to be a little bit different. Instead of using /r or /roll, you're going to use !broll. Follow this formula, !broll. And then you'll want a dice expression, something like 1d20 plus 13. These 2 steps alone are enough to do it. But there's an optional third step if you like to make your GM happy, and this is some sort of explanation for the roll, like will save or recall knowledge to identify the strange winged snake. It's going to be an explanation for them to see, and it's going to be very, very helpful. What does it look like for everybody? Well, what you see as the player who rolled is you're going to get a confirmation that your secret roll was in fact sent to the GM. What does everyone else see? Basically the same thing. You're going to see a confirmation that a secret roll was made. It simulates the fact that during an in-person game, you'd be able to see the GM rolling the dice for a secret roll. There's probably a way to modify this so that it gives you even less information or doesn't appear to the other players at all. Finally, what is the GM going to see? The results of the roll. This is going to be very similar to what happens on a public roll. And that's it. That's all you have to do to add this stuff to your game. I hope that this is really helpful for you. So that's it. We've talked about secret roles, when they can be helpful, when they can be a challenge, what the pros and cons of using them are, and how you can add them to your virtual tabletop. I hope this video has been really helpful for everyone. If so, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you got thoughts, please share them in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll be back with more info soon. Thank you for watching.